Podcast 3, the position of the MSPD, the majority Social Democrats in Bavaria. This just briefly follows on from the previous podcast. What we said in the previous podcast about what happened in Bavaria was the independent socialists, who were more on the left wing, more to the left wing, seized the opportunity by the creation of peasants' Soviets in Bavaria to push for a revolutionary act, which was Bavaria breaking away from Germany and becoming an independent socialist republic. And we said in that podcast that the majority socialists in Berlin, back in Berlin, were sort of caught napping on that one, but reluctantly they agreed to support that act because at least it was an act against the war, and it was an act that brought about socialism, which is what they believed in. But they disagreed in many ways with what had happened. So let's just explore what we mean by that. Okay. Now the majority Social Democrats were led by Hebert. That's the guy here on the top picture, and Philipp Scheidemann, the guy at the bottom. They, along with all the other majority Social Democrats, were an older generation of Social Democrats. They were socialists. They believed in socialism. They wanted, they definitely wanted political reform that would give more influence to the lower classes. But they were also what we call constitutionalists. They believed in law and order. They believed that change should not be brought about in a revolutionary way. It should be done through a parliamentary path. Okay, and there was a parliament that had been elected in 1912, and they believed that there should be proper discussion and legislation about changing the constitution. So they were appalled by what had happened in Bavaria, which they saw as unconstitutional, because any form of violent action to bring about political change they disagreed with. Also, at heart, they were not anti-monarchist. Okay, although there was a growing clamour, that's quoting William Carr, for the Kaiser to abdicate, that does not necessarily mean that the majority socialists wanted that to happen. What they wanted, basically, was for the Kaiser to change the way he ruled, to give more power to the Reichstag, to make the Chancellor accountable to the Reichstag, not to the Kaiser. A little bit like the system in England we have today, what we call the constitutional monarchy. Our Queen does not rule England. The government is accountable to Parliament, not to the Queen, and that's the sort of position that Hebert and Scheidemann took. But they're increasingly finding that events on the streets of Germany are out of their control, and what they want to do is to take control of the popular feeling, the feeling on the streets, which is definitely anti-Kaiser, and they want to divert it away from revolution, which is overthrowing the Kaiser violently, into a channel that they can control, which was, let's talk about it through Parliament and persuade the Kaiser to change the way in which he rules. Okay, so because events were running out of control, on the 8th of November, Hebert and Scheidemann reluctantly agreed to support a general strike. Okay, because on the streets of Germany, particularly in the cities, particularly because of the Soviets, the workers are putting pressure on William to step down from power. Now, the principle of a strike, according to these very traditional men like Hebert and Scheidemann, was a strike is there for economic purposes. It's about getting improved pay and working conditions and so on. That strikes should not be used for political purposes. So they were very uncomfortable about agreeing to support a general strike that was actually including a political demand, and the political demand was that the Kaiser abdicate. But because they effectively represented the workers, and they were the leaders of the Social Democrats, who were the party that represented the workers, they felt that they had to basically support what the workers were demanding, even though at heart they disagreed. with the demand for William to abdicate. So that's the position of the MSPD on the on these events. Thank you.